"William, you don't need to protect the crown. You need to save this family." That wasn't advice. It was a dying wish. As the days of the monarch quietly dwindle, a son is left to confront the true cost of power, a family that has splintered beyond recognition. Prince William knows time is running out, not just to hold the monarchy together, but to heal a silence that has lasted for far too long. Across the ocean, Prince Harry senses a signal from the past. A call, faint but familiar, awakens memories of a time when two brothers were each other's world. But love and memory don't always align with choice. By his side, Meghan, a woman who knows the shadows of royalty better than anyone, stands guard, and silence for her has never been an option. Meanwhile, the forces within the house begin to stir. Some seek to restore the truth, others fear it, and there are those willing to rewrite history at any cost to protect a title they've spent their lives chasing. King Charles is counting down his final days. The royal family is no longer united, and Prince William, caught between duty and blood, is forced to make a final decision. Can family ties save a monarchy, or will it be the very first thing to fall? That morning, London was cloaked in a thin veil of mist, as if the sky itself held its breath before an event poised to shake the world. From Buckingham Palace came a brief but razor-sharp announcement, cutting through the daily hum. King Charles III, the monarch who carried the burden of an era in transition, had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Doctors, their voices heavy and eyes betraying helplessness, declared he had less than a year to live. The news wasn't just a shockwave across the United Kingdom. It was a dagger plunged into the hearts of those closest to him, people teetering on the brink of a splintered dynasty. In the hushed study at Clarence House, Prince William stood motionless by a large window, his somber gaze fixed on the distant garden, where ancient oaks stood silent like witnesses to an era drawing to a close. He remembered summer afternoons as a boy, when he and his father, then Prince Charles, carefully planted saplings, his father's gentle hands guiding him to dig the soil and set the roots. "Trees need time to grow," William, his father, had said, "but if tended well, they endure." Now those words echoed in William's mind, carrying a new painful meaning. The monarchy, his family, was like those trees, but did he have enough time to tend it, to save it? In his mind, King Charles's faint but resolute voice repeated an indelible reminder: "William, you don't need to protect the crown. You need to save this family." Those words weren't a fleeting sentiment. They were a command, a testament, and above all, a plea from a father facing death. The conversation between William and King Charles took place at Sandringham, in a warm room with a crackling fireplace, yet the air was heavy with the shadow of parting. Charles, his face gaunt, cheeks hollowed by illness, sat in a velvet-upholstered armchair, his eyes still burning with an unyielding spark. He gripped his son's hand, his frail fingers trembling but resolute. "William," he said, his voice faltering from weakness but imbued with an unshakable spiritual strength, "I've lived long enough to see this monarchy weather wars, scandals, and the doubts of the people. But what pains me most, what keeps me from closing my eyes, isn't the throne. It's Harry, the unhealed wound in our family." William sat across from him, his heart constricting. He looked into his father's eyes, seeing both love and the despair of a father who'd lost a piece of his soul when Harry stepped away from the royal family. "I don't want to leave this world with my youngest son a stranger," Charles continued, his voice nearly dissolving into the air. "Bring him back, William. Not for the press, not for the crown, but for me, for a father who wants to see his sons stand together one last time." Those words pierced William like an arrow, both a king's command and a father's desperate plea. William bowed, his head, lips pressed tight, struggling to contain the tidal wave of emotion surging in his chest. He nodded, a simple gesture, carrying the weight of a profound promise. But within him, a storm was brewing, fierce and uncontrollable. He knew reconciling with Harry wasn't as simple as a call across the ocean or a letter sent by post. It was a treacherous journey, forcing him to confront the ghosts of the past: Harry and Meghan's biting Oprah interview, the tabloid stories that pitted them as enemies, and the deep wounds that never truly healed. Then there was Meghan Markle, the woman at the heart of every controversy, a question William couldn't yet answer. Was she the bridge to reach Harry, or the invisible wall keeping them apart forever? And Harry, the brother who'd once been his closest friend, sharing every joy and sorrow, did he even want to return, or had he fully embraced a different world? William didn't let emotion override reason. He rose, stepped out of the Sandringham room, his breath mingling with the cold evening air. With the precision of a general preparing for a final battle, he began to plan. A secret meeting, bypassing palace advisors, leaving no trace for the ever-watchful press. In that moment, a name surfaced in his mind: Alex Renner. Alex was a trusted friend from Eton, a quiet but loyal man who'd mediated petty disputes between William and Harry in their carefree days. Though time and distance had faded their connection, Alex remained the only person still in touch with both brothers, a fragile thread linking past and present. William knew if anyone could deliver a message to Harry without leaking it, it was Alex. In a quiet night at Clarence's house, William sat at his desk, the glow of a table lamp illuminating his face, etching the lines of a man carrying a monarchy on his shoulders. He penned a brief letter, each word infused with his heart. "Harry, I want to meet you. Just us. Vancouver next month. Let the past rest." The letter was encrypted, sent through a secure channel only Alex could access. As William set down his pen, he felt a flicker of hope, but also a rising unease. From the moment the letter left his hands, he sensed an invisible barrier forming, like a silent force working against his efforts. Meghan, with her sharp instincts and undeniable ambition, seemed to sense the shift. William knew she wouldn't let things unfold easily. The royal saga from this point was no longer just about a king's illness or the fate of the throne. It was about broken hearts, threatened legacies, and one man, William, standing at the crossroads of duty and kinship. A question lingered in the air, like the fog enveloping London that morning. Could William save his family, or would he be swept into the vortex of schemes, resentments, and the simmering cracks waiting to erupt? As he stood alone in the silent room, gazing at the garden, now shrouded in darkness, William felt the weight of the crown, not the golden one, but the crown of responsibility, love, and the sacrifices he knew he'd face. Under the deep blue sky of Montecito, California, Prince Harry sat alone in a minimalist yet elegant study. The laptop screen's glow cast light on his face, highlighting wrinkles deeper than his years, as if each line told a story of choices and losses. He just read a scathing new article headlined "Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, accused of manipulating Princess Diana's charity event." The event, named for his mother, had once been a flame igniting Harry's heart, a way to keep Diana's legacy alive. Now it was tainted by endless controversies. Meghan, as a producer, had requested Netflix film at the venue, a move the organizers deemed a breach of transparency rules. Sophie Chandaka, the event's chair, was unforgiving. "We cannot be a tool for their media strategy." Her words stabbed Harry's chest. He felt betrayed, not just by those who once called him founder, but by the dream he'd built. He'd believed that leaving the royal family would let him create a better world, where he and Meghan could be beacons of change. Now he was a shadow trapped between vicious criticism and the deafening silence of former allies. In that lonely moment, Harry whispered to himself, his voice breaking, "I'm no longer a founder. I'm just a shadow searching for my mother." In his melancholy, Harry thought of Alex Renner, the old Eton friend who'd seen the days when he and William were inseparable, like two sides of a coin. Alex, with his kind smile and neutral demeanor, had always mediated their petty squabbles over who'd win at polo or who their mother loved more. Though years had passed since they'd met, Harry still received occasional texts from Alex, brief messages checking in or sharing an old story. Talking to Alex always felt safe because Harry knew his friend never picked sides. At that moment, a message from Alex Renner popped up on Harry's phone. He opened it, and William's encrypted letter hit him like a jolt. "Harry, I want to meet you. Just us. Vancouver next month. Let the past rest." Harry's heart pounded as if yanked back to a time he thought he'd buried. He reread the letter, each word hammering his heart-stirring emotions he'd tried to suppress. Part of him yearned to see William, to return to the days they ran across polo fields laughing under summer sun. He remembered William's embraces after matches when they were innocent, untouched by the monarchy's pressures. He recalled late nights at Kensington, by the fireplace, sharing stories of their mother, their dreams. Harry gripped the phone, eyes glued to the screen, oblivious to Meghan's soft footsteps as she entered the room. She stood at the threshold watching her husband, her sharp eyes reading every shift in his demeanor. That morning, Archewell's PR team had flagged a vague rumor from London, William was reportedly planning something possibly involving Harry. Though details were scarce, Meghan's keen instincts put her on guard. Seeing Harry's tense face, his hand clutching the phone, she knew something was wrong. "Harry," Meghan said, her voice gentle, but carrying an undeniable force. "What's going on?" Harry flinched quickly, locking the phone, but his eyes betrayed his unease. Meghan stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder, her gaze locking onto him as if to extract the truth. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" she asked, her tone low but piercing. Harry hesitated, his heart torn between keeping William's secret and his loyalty to the wife who'd stood by him through every storm. Finally, under the weight of Meghan's gaze, Harry sighed, unlocked the phone, and showed her Alex's message. Meghan skimmed William's letter, her lips tightening, her eyes flashing with a mix of caution and concern. "Harry," she said firmly, "you can't trust them. William doesn't want reconciliation. He wants to pull you back, to control you, to make you a puppet of the palace again. You've fought too hard to break free. Have you forgotten?" Harry looked into her eyes, seeing both love and unyielding resolve. He loved her, believed in her vision of a free life, unbound by Buckingham's archaic rules. But deep within, a faint voice whispered that Meghan, however much she loved him, couldn't grasp the weight of the family wounds he carried since their mother's death. Their debate stretched into the night. Meghan, with razor-sharp logic, argued that if William truly wanted peace, he'd come to Montecito, face them on their turf, not summon Harry halfway across the globe. "This isn't an invitation, Harry," she said, her voice lowering. "It's a summons." Harry wavered, his heart torn between two worlds. Finally, he nodded, letting Meghan decide. "You're right," he said, but his voice was hollow, as if he'd surrendered a piece of himself. As William's letter was cast aside, Harry felt a deeper void open within him. He gazed out the window where moonlight bathed Montecito's tranquil garden, and wondered if he was truly free as he dreamed, or merely trapped in a new prison, one forged by his own choices. Balmoral, a late summer afternoon, carried the crisp chill of the Scottish Highlands. In the castle's ancient meeting room, crystal chandeliers cast flickering light on portraits of kings and queens, as if the spirits of the past watched in silence. The air was thick with tension, the ticking of a wall clock, the only sound piercing the quiet. King Charles, who should have led the meeting, lay bedridden at Windsor, his breaths faint, leaving a power vacuum the monarchy quietly vied to fill. Prince William, stepping in for his father, was swept into endless meetings with officials and urgent overseas tours, leaving Balmoral to other royals. This was the moment Princess Anne, with the steely resolve of an unyielding warrior, seized. Anne stood tall in the room, her piercing gaze sweeping over the royals seated around the oak table. She knew this moment, when Charles was frail and William distracted, was her last chance to protect her mother's legacy. Queen Elizabeth II, before history was rewritten. No one, from dukes to trusted advisors, was prepared for the earthquake she was about to unleash. With a low, clear voice like a sword's edge, Anne declared, "Queen Elizabeth II. My mother never approved the title Queen for Camilla, and she left a document to ensure her wishes would not be forgotten." The room froze. Camilla, seated at the table's head in an elegant, deep green silk dress, gripped her chair, her knuckles whitening as if they might snap. Her face paled, lips pursed, struggling to contain the storm of emotions roiling within. Her eyes, usually sharp and calculating, flickered with fleeting panic. Camilla realized Anne wasn't just attacking her title. She was striking when Charles couldn't defend her, and William was too busy to intervene. Unfazed, Anne continued, her voice ringing like an unappealable verdict. "In 2005, one evening at Sandringham, my mother made it clear to me, and Princess Alexandra, her closest cousin Camilla, was unfit to bear the title Queen in any form. My mother only agreed to Charles marrying Camilla because he leveraged Prince Andrew's scandal to pressure her. But she wrote a letter entrusted to me to ensure her wishes would be upheld." Anne drew an old, carefully sealed envelope from her coat pocket bearing Queen Elizabeth II's personal crest. She'd safeguarded it for 2 decades in a private archive at Clarence House, where the Queen had entrusted her as the final guardian of the royal legacy. With the care of someone long awaiting this moment, Anne opened the envelope, revealing a sheet of paper with the Queen's elegant, authoritative script. The letter was brief, but each line cut like a blade. "I do not approve of Camilla being called Queen in any capacity. Charles may have his love, but the monarchy's legacy must be protected. Anne, my most trusted daughter, will uphold this wish." Anne held the letter aloft chandelier, light glinting through, highlighting the vivid red royal seal. "This is my mother's wish," she said, her voice low but powerful. "And as my brother weakens, as William is consumed by heavy duties, I will not let this truth be buried, no matter who tries to distort history." Camilla stood abruptly, her chair slamming against the wooden floor with a piercing thud that echoed through the room. "This is an outrage," she shouted, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and hurt. Her eyes blazed as if 2 decades of effort from a reviled outsider to a place beside the throne had been trampled mercilessly. Camilla knew Anne had chosen the perfect moment to strike when she lacked Charles's protection and William's mediation. Without another word, Camilla turned, her silk dress swirling like an angry gust, and stormed out. The door slammed shut, leaving a deathly silence as if the air itself had been drained. To Camilla, Anne wasn't just a jealous sister or political rival. She was the final gatekeeper of a past Camilla had tried to bury, a past where she was branded the other woman, the destroyer of Princess Diana's happiness, the beloved mother of William and Harry. Anne, with her unwavering loyalty to her mother and the Queen's legacy, embodied a truth Camilla couldn't escape. But Anne didn't stop there. After the meeting, she wrote a brief letter sent via a trusted aide to William, who was in London preparing for a meeting with the Prime Minister. In it, she wrote, "William, the truth is out. Your father is fading, and you're the only one who can protect your grandmother's wishes. Don't let them be distorted." The letter was sent like a torch passed to William, though he was hundreds of miles away. When William received the letter late that night at Clarence's house after a grueling day of royal duties, he sat down, opened the envelope, and read Anne's words. He felt the weight of the truth unveiled. This secret wasn't just a blow to Camilla. It could shatter his father's image, the man he'd loved and respected his entire life. William's loyalty was torn between duty to the monarchy, love for his father, and the truth Anne had placed in his hands like an inescapable responsibility. He rose, stepped onto the balcony, and looked down at Clarence's house's darkened garden, each step heavy with the burden of a monarchy on the brink. Camilla was not one to bow to defeat, and the humiliation at Balmoral, where Princess Anne unveiled Queen Elizabeth II's letter denying her the title of queen, only steeled her resolve. With King Charles confined to his sickbed at Windsor, his breath faint like a candle flickering in the wind, and Prince William consumed by the weight of his father's duties, from government audiences to international tours, Camilla saw a golden opportunity to crush her greatest adversary, Anne. With Charles unable to shield her and William too preoccupied to intervene, Camilla moved decisively, transforming the monarchy's turmoil into a springboard to solidify her power and title. At Highgrove, in a cozy room adorned with paintings of roses, her beloved flower, a symbol of resilience and beauty. Despite thorns, Camilla summoned her closest media advisors. The firelight from the hearth danced across her face, accentuating sharp features as cold and unyielding as marble. "I want Anne erased from the spotlight," she declared, her voice low and icy, devoid of warmth, each word slicing like a blade. "Charles is fading. William is distracted, and Anne has crossed a line by daring to challenge my title. She thinks she's Elizabeth's final gatekeeper. I'll show her who truly holds this monarchy." A covert campaign was launched as sophisticated and ruthless as its architect. Charity events, long led by Anne, emblems of her devotion to organizations once patronized by Queen Elizabeth II, were abruptly removed from the national media calendar. Ceremonies where Anne typically commanded attention with her resolute presence and incisive speeches were replaced by events hosted by Camilla, lauded by palace-friendly press as proof of her queenly role. The media, as if guided by an unseen hand, began publishing articles praising Camilla as Charles's healer, portraying her as a safe harbor amid the storm of his illness, while subtly sowing doubts about Anne's motives. Sensational headlines like "Princess Anne Gatekeeper" or "Divider" and "Anne's Challenge to the Monarchy Loyalty" or "Envy" became arrows aimed squarely at the public image of the woman who dared to confront Camilla. In her Highgrove sanctuary, Camilla skimmed the articles, her lips tightening into a cold, satisfied smile. She knew Anne, with her unwavering loyalty to her mother and Queen Elizabeth's legacy, posed the greatest threat to her ambitions. The Balmoral letter wasn't merely a blow to Camilla's title, it was a public declaration of war. But Camilla was not one to stand idle. With Charles weakening and William entangled in royal obligations, She seized the moment to reduce Anne to a faint shadow, a villain in the public's eyes, while cementing her own position as an indispensable queen. Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, Kate Middleton sat alone in her private quarters, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminating her gentle yet resolute face. News of the Balmoral confrontation had reached her through a trusted aide, and though she wasn't directly drawn into the feud between Camilla and Anne, Kate understood the chaos threatened the legacy she and William were building for George, Charlotte, and Louis. In her hand was a handwritten letter from Queen Elizabeth II, sent shortly after her wedding to William. The Queen's elegant words echoed through time. "You are the only one who can preserve the dignity of this family when all others have lost it." Kate clutched the letter tightly, feeling as if she held a flame that didn't burn, but fueled her courage. Kate knew that with Charles ailing and William stretched thin, she had to act to safeguard her family, not by joining the clash between Camilla and Anne, but by reinforcing her image as a compassionate leader. She refused to be ensnared by palace intrigues or sensational headlines. Instead, she seized the opportunity to amplify her charity initiatives, particularly her cherished mental health projects. Rising from her chair, she stepped to the window overlooking Kensington's garden, where white daisies bloomed vibrantly under the early autumn sun, symbols of purity and resilience. "I won't let these battles shape my children's future," she whispered, her voice soft but brimming with determination. In that moment, Kate embodied serenity and strength, a woman who shone without needing the spotlight. She returned to her desk, opened a small notebook, and began to write not a statement to rebut or a speech to compete, but a plan to advance her mission: new charity campaigns, meetings with families in need, and inspiring talks on hope and unity. With Charles gravely ill and William overwhelmed, Kate recognized this as her moment to fortify her legacy, not through conflict, but through the compassion and dedication she had learned from Queen Elizabeth II. As Camilla and Anne battled in the monarchy's shadows, Kate forged her own path, one of light and hope for her family and the monarchy's future. Prince William's private jet glided through gray clouds, landing at Vancouver's airport on a dreary afternoon, the sky heavy with an ominous foreboding. Cold winds swept the tarmac as if trying to blow away the fragile hope William carried in his heart. He stepped off the plane, his dark coat flapping in the gusts, his pensive eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Vancouver, a foreign city, was where he staked everything to reclaim his brother Prince Harry. A faint spark still burned in him that maybe just once more the brothers could rediscover the days when they were everything to each other. William chose the Fairmont Hotel for the meeting, a luxurious yet discreet building nestled in the city's heart. The top-floor suite was meticulously prepared, stripped of any royal traces, to evade the press's prying eyes. William stood by the large window gazing at Vancouver's bustling traffic, but his mind drifted elsewhere to distant memories, when he and Harry were carefree boys romping through Highgrove's lush fields. In his hand was a faded, worn photo, he and Harry beaming under Caribbean sun, standing with Princess Diana on a wooden boat. Their mother's smile, warm and vibrant, seemed to whisper, "Don't give up, William. Your brother is still there somewhere." He sat in a leather armchair, the photo still clutched like a talisman. William had rehearsed this meeting for weeks, mentally repeating the words he wanted to say to Harry. He didn't want to argue or reopen old wounds, the bitter Oprah interview, the tabloids that drove them apart. He wanted to talk about their father, King Charles, counting his days on a sickbed. He wanted to speak of family, their children, and what they could build together if they let go of the past. Above all, he wanted Harry to know that no matter who turned away, he'd always be his brother. The wall clock slowly struck 6:45 p.m. William checked his phone, no messages, no calls. He stood, adjusted his suit jacket, trying to shake the growing unease. Harry will come, he told himself, though his heart began to race. But when the clock hit 7:00, the appointed hour, the room remained silent. No knock, no footsteps. Only the wind's howl through the window, mocking his hope. William waited, each minute stretching like a century. 7:15, 8:30. Finally, he sank into the chair, hands limp, the photo slipping to the floor, his eyes vacant. Across Vancouver at the Invictus Games, Gala's Convention Center stage, lights blazed on Meghan Markle. She appeared in a flowing white silk gown, her hair loose, her confident smile captivating every gaze. Cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing her every graceful move. Beside her, Harry stood tall, his black suit sharp, but his smile strained his eyes adrift as if searching the crowd. He knew William was in Vancouver, but Meghan, with her keen instincts and unyielding resolve, had acted first. "We can't let them control the narrative," Harry she'd told him the previous night in their luxurious hotel room. "If William truly wanted peace, he'd come to Montecito, face us on our ground. A secret meeting in Vancouver. That's not reconciliation. It's a trap to pull you back, to make you look like the loser." Her voice was firm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of worry, not for William, but for Harry, whom she knew was torn. Meghan had arranged for Harry to leave Vancouver early, attending a surprise event in Los Angeles, ensuring the meeting with William would never happen. In Harry's heart, a silent battle raged. Part of him ached to see his brother, to hear William's voice, to embrace him like old times. He remembered late nights at Kensington, sharing stories of their mother, their dreams. But each glance at Meghan's eyes showed her resolve, the woman who'd sacrificed everything to stand by him, who believed their path was the only way to protect their family. "She's right," Harry told himself, trying to soothe the emptiness clawing at his chest. "They'll never understand what we've endured, the scrutiny, the criticism, the nights I lay awake worrying for her and the kids." William, refusing to give up, attended the Invictus Games gala, hoping to glimpse Harry. Disguised simply with a cap and nondescript coat, he sat quietly in the stands, blending into the crowd. From his shadowed corner, he saw Harry on stage, familiar yet distant. Harry was no longer the boy who chased him across polo fields, sharing every secret in late-night talks. He was a man trapped, caught between love for Meghan and duty to the royal family, between a thirst for freedom and the invisible chains of the past. As Harry's speech ended and the stage lights dimmed, William rose silently and left the stands. Each step weighed heavy, carrying a fracturing monarchy. At Vancouver's airport, as William prepared to board his flight back to London, Alex Renner met him. The old friend, his face weathered, placed a hand on William's shoulder, his voice low and sad. "Harry isn't rejecting the family, William. He's just imprisoned by his own choices. Give him time." William nodded but said nothing. He boarded the plane, the photo of him and Harry still in his pocket, crumpled and cold. As the plane took off, William gazed out the window, watching Vancouver's lights fade, and felt a door in his heart, close perhaps forever. Soft autumn sunlight filtered through the oaks at Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, where a charity event for terminally ill children was unfolding. London seemed to pause, as if to bear witness to the arrival of Princess Anne, a woman imbued with the indomitable strength of a warrior who had devoted her life to safeguarding her mother's legacy, Queen Elizabeth II. Anne, her silver hair neatly tied, wore a crisp navy suit, moving with regal assurance that betrayed no hint of hesitation. Her presence, a beacon of steadfast loyalty, drew every camera lens. Reporters, typically chasing scandals, now quietly captured the moment, as if observing a new chapter in royal history, where Anne stood to confront the threats to her mother's legacy. Following her bold humiliation of Camilla at Balmoral, where she revealed Queen Elizabeth II's letter denying Camilla the title of Queen Anne, did not rest on her words. She had quietly orchestrated a counter-media campaign as sophisticated as Camilla's own. Anne reached out to independent journalists from respected outlets like The Times and The Guardian, who had long celebrated Queen Elizabeth II's dedication. She also convened leaders of charities she and her mother had patronized, such as Save the Children and the Princess Royal Trust, to organize a series of high-profile charity events designed to revive her image as the spiritual heir to the Queen. In an exclusive interview with The Times, Anne recounted her loyalty to her mother, emphasizing her role as the final gatekeeper of an era, a subtle but razor-sharp message that dismantled Camilla's sensationalist articles, which had painted her as a divider. She deftly referenced the Balmoral letter, withholding its full contents, but revealing enough to cast doubt on the legitimacy of Camilla's queen title. "My mother left clear wishes," Anne stated in the interview, her voice low but commanding, "and I will not allow anyone to distort her legacy, no matter how close they stand to the throne." The interview spread rapidly, embraced by the public as a testament to Anne's loyalty and integrity, rendering Camilla's articles feeble in comparison. At the Great Ormond Street charity event, Anne took the podium, her voice ringing with both steel and emotion. "We are not here to vie for titles or power. We are here to protect the values my mother, Queen Elizabeth II, spent her life building compassion, dedication, and above all, truth. The crowd erupted in applause, but Anne sought no adulation. Each word was a dagger aimed at Camilla, who had tried to reduce her to a mere shadow in the public's eyes. Camilla, in a desperate bid to reassert her authority, hosted a meticulously staged honor ceremony at Clarence House, with press cameras poised to capture every moment as a display of power. She demanded that all royals, including Anne, publicly bow to her, a calculated move to subdue the woman who had challenged her title at Balmoral. The atmosphere in the room was heavy, tense enough to slice with a knife. Guests from nobles to officials fixed their eyes on Anne as she entered, her regal bearing unshaken. As Anne approached Camilla, the room held its breath. Camilla, clad in a deep red gown, stood tall, her smile tight but her eyes icy, awaiting a bow to affirm her dominance. Anne paused, her gaze locking onto Camilla's, a piercing blade, cutting through every facade. She offered a perfunctory nod, just enough to satisfy protocol, but no one in the room mistook its meaning. "This is not for you," her eyes declared, and the intensity of their confrontation set the room ablaze. Camilla forced a strained smile, her hand tightening around a champagne flute, her fingers trembling as she struggled to contain the fury surging within her. The crowd remained silent, but whispers began to ripple, a reminder that Camilla, despite her proximity to the throne, could not subdue Queen Elizabeth's final gatekeeper. After the ceremony, in a private room at Clarence House, Anne sat alone, holding a carefully preserved document from 2005, another letter from Queen Elizabeth II, entrusted to her in her mother's final days. Its elegant, authoritative script reiterated the Queen's wish Camilla may be with Charles, but the title Queen will never be hers. "Anne, you are my final guardian." Anne reread the letter, her eyes gleaming with pride tinged with profound sorrow. She recalled long evenings with her mother when the Queen shared the crown's burdens and unseen sacrifices. Anne knew this was her moment to continue the fight, not just for her mother, but for the monarchy itself. With Charles gravely ill and William overwhelmed, Anne was the last flame still burning, and she would not let Camilla extinguish it. At Windsor Castle, in a room adorned with ancient tapestries and royal portraits, King Charles lay on his sickbed, his breath faint like a candle flickering in the wind. Sunlight from the window illuminated his face, etching deep wrinkles, marks of a man who'd carried a monarchy through decades. His eyes, though weary, held a final spark of hope. He summoned William, his voice barely a whisper, each word a struggle. "Write my final speech, William. Tell the world I want unity, that I want this family whole. Do it for me, for Harry, for all of us." William stood by his father's bed, his heart heavy, as if crushed by an invisible stone. He looked into Charles's eyes, once a symbol of stability, now a fragile shadow worn by time and illness. He wanted to promise to say he'd do everything to save the monarchy, to bring Harry back, to make his father's final plea reality. But after Vancouver, after slammed doors and shattered hopes, William knew some cracks were too deep, too painful to mend. Harry, his brother, was now a man in his own world, and William, however much he loved him, couldn't pull him back. He didn't write the speech. Instead, William left the sick room, stepping into the castle's rear garden, where twilight gilded the trees. Kate sat on a wooden bench in an elegant cream dress, hands folded on her knees, serene as a true queen. George, Charlotte, and Louis played nearby, their laughter a healing melody in the grim days. When the children saw their father, they rushed to Kate, hugging her, and she smiled a smile, blending a mother's tenderness with a woman's resilience. William sat beside Kate, his hand finding hers, intertwining tightly in a silent vow. In that moment, amid their children's laughter and Kate's gaze, William found the peace he'd long sought. He knew he couldn't save the entire monarchy, mend every crack, or bring Harry back as his father wished. But he could protect what truly mattered, his own family here beside him, and the future he and Kate were building for their children. Meanwhile, at Buckingham Palace, Camilla stood alone in the portrait gallery before a towering painting of Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's stern eyes seemed to pierce her soul, judging every choice she'd made, from her days in the shadows to her place beside the throne. Camilla, in a black silk dress, stood tall, but her shoulders trembled. "Why did you never call me daughter?" she whispered, her voice breaking, a question forever unanswered. No one replied. Only the silence of ancient walls reminded her that this monarchy wasn't hers, and perhaps never would be. A monarchy doesn't die from schemes or wars. It dies from untouched cracks, unspoken words, and hearts that can't be mended. As dusk fell, William held Kate's hand, watching their children play in the fading light. He knew the monarchy's future lay not in plots, titles, or grand speeches. It lay here in the love and hope of a family determined to build a new legacy, one untainted by the past shadows and enduring like the trees he and his father once planted, if nurtured with heart.